All right. Lights out, chapter 70. We're coming down to the end of the story. And I have a cat out here. I gotta watch him. The vicious attack cat who bites. Seriously bites. But has not messed with me yet. I think he's a pretty intelligent cat. That must be the explanation. Either that or you can see what'll happen to him. All right. I've been rereading, a little bit of the last section, and I'm glad I've been doing that because it's still cutting off. It's cutting off like a whole line or two, so. All right. Chapter 70. Mark went over the group's attack plans in his head. It was different than what they'd come up with originally. They hadn't expected for things to go as easily as they had. That, coupled with the information they'd gotten from the MZBs, had convinced Gunny to come up with this plan. Instead of using the defenses John had put in place and attacking the raiders from the inside out, they would let them come inside and ambush them from the outside in. The man Gunny interviewed had said John's raiding party was due back at noon, but that could vary by several hours. He told Gunny that between the time the scout team had first evaluated a small ranch about 30 miles south of here and the time the raiding party had gotten there, another group had evidently taken over. They were more than the raiding party was prepared to deal with and killed 3 of John's men. 4 others were badly wounded. So Snuffer had put them out of their misery. That was why John had gone on this raid and taken all of his most experienced men with him. They weren't looking to bring anything or anyone back on this mission. It was purely for revenge. Further questioning of the captured MZBs and the women revealed that the man John had left in charge was telling the truth. The returning raiders would drive right into the compound as long as they didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Gunny had 6 of the men find some clothing out of the cabins and put it on. All but 2 were to be in the courtyard as if they were MZBs watching the women do their chores. A half dozen of the women had volunteered to help make things look normal to the arriving Cretans. The other 2 men were to open the gates when the convoy arrived and close them once the last truck came through. That was a signal for the rest of the Silver Hills gang to pop up in the foxholes around the perimeter and cover the trucks. Gunny wanted to show them what they were up against before they could get out of the trucks. He felt that, with as easy as the MZBs John had left behind had given up, perhaps they would also take this group without a shot being fired, and even if they did have to shoot with no hostages to worry about, the men could open up with no fear of innocent casualties. The crossfire would be a death trap to anyone caught in it. The foxholes had been dug to defend the compound from attack from the outside, but they would work for this ambush just as well. John had apparently never seen this possibility, or he would have had an all-clear sign before the raiders just drove through the gates. Hopefully, Gunny said, we'll take him without a fight and be home in time for supper. It seemed a solid plan. Simple, but solid. This was supposed to be the best kind, wasn't it? Mark thought. Somehow he just had a bad feeling about it, but he didn't know why. He voiced his concerns to Gunny in private. I think you're just being paranoid, Karate Man. But if it makes you feel better, I'll ask again to make sure we're not stepping into a trap. Gunny re-questioned several of the men and women specifically about an all-clear signal, but all of them told him the same thing. There was no such system in place. He asked about the honking Mark had witnessed when the raiders had come back one time. They explained that it only happened when fresh meat, as John called it, was brought back. Since the women in the small ranch had probably been killed by the other group, and John's plan was to destroy them and the house they were in totally, no one was expecting them to bring back any new captives. From everything Gunny could discern, it looked like all they had to do was wait for the rats to come back to their hole and then spring the trap. Mark was still nervous, but maybe Gunny was right. Maybe he was just being paranoid. The medical team had taken all of the women who weren't helping and the children back to the trucks. Almost everyone else was making themselves as comfortable as possible in one of the foxholes.